So this is Dan Eisenberg here with Mitch Zlotnick, an old friend of mine whom I've worked with in our Scalerator. And I have a lot of respect for Mitch. He's been growing his company uh, it, out of the spotlight in one sense, but in the spotlight of his customers, which is really the spotlight that
Wow.
you want to be in. And so it's Mitch Zlotnick. And Mitch, so tell us, uh, what do you do? What is Audimute? And in sort of 30 words or less, what do you do?
What do we do? So Audimute solves sound problems. We do this in a very unique way with solutions that integrate well. We call it integration, where they take the form of art or graphics or other functional elements in a space. So you could have when typically problems are going to be solved with, say, sound quality or transfer to other areas, we're going to weaken energy at the sound source. We're going to keep sound from bouncing around a room to improve quality of meetings and this sort of thing. And typically, this can take the form of a panel.
Give us an
Uh,
example. Just give us a concrete
Yep.
example.
Concrete example is a series of panels that you would put in a conference room instead of just being fabric covered panels.
In a real life example, a conference room on this street, and this church, this restaurant, this drummer.
Um, yes. So let's take, oh my gosh, Master Brand right around the corner, for example, a manufacturer of fine, cabinets and such, has a wonderful conference room, and we built this beautiful architectural ceiling that is looks like wood, but it's actually our material. Um, let's take Carter McLean, who's the drummer for the Lion King. And instead of just putting plain panels in his space, he has this multi-depth, really cool, vibey, quadratic diffuser looking background that's extremely unique, highly absorptive, which lets him record clean, especially because he teaches out of his home space. You can take churches that use us for, where they're going to put us in different spaces, different areas throughout the church, so that they don't have that cacophony of reflections. Instead, you have focused sound. You can hear and intelligible speech during services.
So one of the things that occurs to me when I listen to you, and I try to put myself in the shoes of someone who knows nothing about you. I happen to know something. I have your panels all around my office here,
Yeah.
and I notice the difference. But um, so you don't walk into everybody's restaurant. You don't walk into everybody's home. You don't walk into everybody's studio and say, "Oh, what's your problem? I'll put up the panels." It's a much more scalable process than that. And so what's the difference between what you do and I invite somebody into my home to fix it up so that it's quiet?
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly it. And so what happens is we want to establish clarity of sound, and we want to make that appropriate for the space. So in your office, for example, or where you're recording today, um, we needed a certain amount of coverage in solution for first reflection points. There's a voodoo to what we do.
But
There's
you never came to my office. You didn't
That's
even know what
correct.
the office is.
Yeah, but I can work off. I mean, many of the projects that we're involved with sound don't even exist yet. But we can look at drawings and even when very helpful visualizations to know where treatment has to have and it has to be the type, the amount, and the position of the treatment in order to cause an outcome and bring clarity of sound that's appropriate for that space. So I think what happens is, and where I think this is most relevant to your listeners and people who are going to enjoy your podcast, is just a simple understanding of um, taking sound away as an issue. It's like a good haircut. If you don't notice a good haircut, it's good.
Well,
Uh,
I don't understand still how you make money. Do you make money because you say, I'm going to charge you $5,000? I'm just making the number up. $5,000 to make to soundproof your house or your office, or do you sell equipment? Do you sell
yeah. So what we sell, yeah, is
make
actually
money?
panels. It's actually panels. But in terms of like where do we make money? Where do we make a living? And that is solving the problem. That involves being able to diagnose that. Sometimes there's consultative time that's involved. where we are actually going and doing field work and this sort of thing to do analysis. That's not as common as simply being able to work with some postulates in our industry, knowing, say, for voice in a conference room that is so big, we know that we're going to cover between 10 and 30% of surface areas in order to achieve what we need to achieve. So that doesn't need to be done on site. That's something that we know we're going to have to provide a thing. There's going to be something that's going to be hung on the wall in a certain form that we can make more artistic as Audimute, but let's just say something in the form of a panel, an absorptive panel of the right density. Basically these are going to be sold. So there's a product. We're actually a manufacturer in that regard.
So you make money selling a product
We
primarily.
sell a product, right? And then and there is also very much a consultative approach, but there's also visualizations and design. The whole visual side of what we do causes another, I would say, another business area for us or opportunity for us to be able to create visualizations, presentations that virtualize a space and allow folks to see the spaces before they're created.
Now, how let's talk about how big you are. I know that you've grown a lot in the last 5 or 6 years or so. Um, tell us how many people, how much product. Well,
Yeah,
for a guessing game about how much money you're making.
yeah, I think you can put us, in that $5-6 million range is just a nice number. What's interesting is we just dropped 1.3 million in business. We came down in sales, and that's because we turned off Amazon.
Why
We
did
just
you Amazon?
completely turned it off because we realized with a lot of this is a great nugget for your listeners. We realized that we were just trading dollars. With the cost of doing everything and everything we're doing there and the effort we were putting in to drive these sales, it was like it was just break even business at best. And we said, you know what? We don't need this. I
You fired your bad customer.
I fired a giant customer and I guarantee you that we're not going to do 1.3 million the following year. Yeah. And so we cut them off and it was the best decision we made.
So that
The
means your
profit went up.
profits has gone up.
Yeah, profit went up huge, and we got rid of such a big we didn't realize was a burden on the business, and especially down at the individual levels. We have about 35 people, but we realized that downstream that folks were like, "Hey, my goal is to run marketing campaigns and do this whole thing," and they may see feedback immediately from their marketing efforts, but not necessarily the feedback that at the profit and loss statements, level. And so what happens is they feel like they're generating traffic and they feel like they're getting this big ROI, but they don't see what's happening in terms of what's being sold or at what profit and et cetera. And we realized that it just wasn't worth what we were doing on Amazon. There's other places where that is valuable, but there it wasn't.
It's
So
interesting, the I wanna just, touch on the, let's say, emotional or the organizational cultural impact of having a customer that's not profitable and then shedding that customer. This is probably one of the scariest things for business owners and entrepreneurs to do is to say to Amazon or any big customer, especially a big name, saying, "We don't need your business. It's not good for us." But what impact did that have on your people and in your organization, if any?
I think everybody was really excited because it made us a lot less busy to make a lot more money.
There
That
we
was it,
go.
period. You know what else is great? This is another we're about to do that again, I think. A very large customer represents, I think, I don't know, $500,000 worth of business. It's a very large customer for us, but we're looking at it as, you know what? They're late on payment, so my receivables are up. We gotta carry X amount of finished goods in stock for them, and we have to have X amount of inventory in order to ramp up to be able to fulfill the next order, and they're late on their payments. And then they're asking us for discounts. It's like, "Wait a minute here. Something's wrong." And I brought up today in the meeting today, I said, maybe this is another Amazon scenario where we think we're doing well and we think we want this business, but it's actually dragging us down.
Now, did you ever try to talk to your customer about that? Or
We are having those live conversations, and I think they're going to call our bluff, and there is no bluff. They're going to realize that I honestly don't care if they leave because they're costing me money. And, it's just we can't afford to have their business. You have to recognize when a customer is becoming a customer.
I
And
cost them. I love it. The big headline for everybody out there is not all customers are created equal. there are better customers and there are
Yes.
worse customers. And just because they have a nice name or contribute to your top line doesn't mean that they're good customers.
Amen. That's good advice from the wise.
So we've seen that a lot. Let's talk about your organization,
Yeah.
Mitch. You say about 35 people. As you've grown, what have been some of the lessons you've learned about how to build that organization that can really deliver the goods?
The best thing to do, and I think this came from Scalerator, was really looking at your people and being able to part company with people that were wonderful people when they're working somewhere else and not with you, and willing to make the sacrifice of there's going to be some transition until we find the right person, but being able to make that transition, having to do that, has been the absolute only way to be able to step up.
Now, parting company, especially with people you like and who appreciate,
Yes.
but who may not fit anymore, is also one of the most anxiety provoking events in an entrepreneur's life. One that they postpone and postpone and postpone. Finally, when you do it, everyone says,
Because you know why? It feels good. Michael Gerber would talk about that, in E-Myth Revisited, where you've got people who they it feels good to have someone filling the role, but it's a matter of who has the guts first. I don't know if Michael mentioned this or I got this somewhere else, but it's like, who has the bigger guts? Do I have the willingness to tolerate a transition as an owner, or as a general manager, or whomever, tolerate the transition, or does this person have the gump to say, "Hey, look, this job is probably not the best job for me. I need to be going somewhere else." And it's kind of like who can pull the trigger first.
well, even if the employee doesn't or partner doesn't pull the trigger, you may have to pull it.
Always, always. It's the hardest thing for an entrepreneur to do. And that's so. How did we get there? How do we build our team? Being willing to part company when we needed to, um, and I think really just having a good sense of everybody who really looking for that fit. You know what I mean? Finding the right fit. And what does that mean? I mean, it's going to be different for every organization, but culturally, bringing something to the table. We always talk. Someone that has the capacity. Someone that has um, the what was this? Oh, oh, what is it? There's a three. It's one of those nuggets. You know what I mean?
Guess what, Mitch?
We're gonna run out of time here.
No, I forgot to press record.
Oh, it's okay. We can go back, and it'll be better the second time.
You want to do it?
It'll be better the second time, and I'll make it more terse because I didn't
Want to
let
do it now?
it's
No, no, no. It's fine. You want to do it now?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, we were recording. No, let's keep going. I'll edit that part out.
Yeah, okay.
Dan Eisenberg, first time podcaster. Here we go. Back in the saddle.
No, it's great. I think it's
So, what kind of, Mitch? I'm going to count to 5 so I can edit it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, what kind of impact does that have on other people who stay and whom you want to stay to see someone leave who didn't fit?
I think it builds a lot of credibility for management. If you're doing it every day, it's the opposite effect. But if it's something where, I mean, if when you don't have a fit issue, it's appreciated when you because they can't do anything about it. They have to work with whatever environment that you're creating and you're managing. But if you're willing to make the changes in order to take the company forward, I don't think in my career I've ever made one of those moves where it wasn't appreciated by people who rely upon success in that position as a fit and as a worker.
Did you ever have the reaction, implicit or explicit, why didn't you do it sooner?
I used to early on, and then I recognized that that is the way to move forward. That is how to get there faster. Um, but it's not always a matter of like the impact on the organization overall. I think some people may not realize it when you have certain, especially in a small company, when you have a lot of responsibility in a small area. Um, Not everybody might. It's not like a coworker is going to recognize the effect, or you're going to get credit for making a big change there. But like if there's something that's not happening as in the position that has to happen, and you recognize that there's much more that should be done or could be done, then it's impacting everyone. So it's not going to be this big change culturally, but in terms of what the company needs, what the business needs, you have to assert those changes. And um, they're very tough decisions. They're just really hard because you've been working with people for so long. And again, in a small company, it's like family. So it's not personal. That's what people have to remember. I'm not saying you can use the excuse of it's business either, but I'm just saying it's people have to remember why we're here.
Do you ever see yourself, Mitch, as being a 20, 30, $50 million business?
No, no. It's just um, because I don't think I can do that level of business and keep the family feel that I enjoy in my office. And I experienced that when we scaled up to about 45 people or so. And then I started having people that didn't know who we were. I saw people not caring about the company as much, things like this. I didn't know everybody in the office. That was interesting. And there's some guys that want that, and that's great. But I think I really enjoyed learned this over time, the lifestyle business of just having a great place to go every day with a wonderful team to do something really amazing that no one else is doing. And I think if we scaled up that way slowly and it still felt like the right thing, I think I'd still be there with the right core team. But so far, it's nice when I come back from my installations that I will personally participate in around the country for very famous musicians and such. A lot of them my heroes. I will come back here and go back to shipping, and I'll go back to the guys in production and the folks in coding department and everything and talk to these people and it's like show them the pictures of what they created. So they don't feel like they're just doing something rote every day, that there's real purpose and meaning behind what they're doing. And by the way, you know, the bass player for AC/DC really enjoyed your work because that's where it's sitting now. Or you can go to, Cyndi Lauper's drummer, the drummer for The Lion King, or Cheap Trick's drummer. I mean, my goodness, Taylor Swift's drummer, Jason Aldean's drummer, Luke Combs' drummer. Um, and you can, look into their eyes and hear the message. And I always get cameos from my artists too, so that they could hear the appreciation of what we did for them to give them a personalized space in which to do their best work. And
So,
that grows culture.
just two other questions. One is the devil's advocate question, and the other one's kind of a nicer question. The devil's advocate question is it possible that um, if you grow gradually, and that's what I hear you saying, is grow gradually as long as you can maintain that spirit that you appreciate. Um, is it possible that some competitor will come along and let's say a stronger competitor come along and take your business away from you?
I don't think it's possible, and I would challenge anybody out there who wants to try to do that because I know what the costs are and what it takes to do what we're doing. Most places who already exist don't have the mass customization capabilities that we've invented internally that enable us to do just the 6 things that we do well because it's based upon our core competencies. And having a mass customization allows us to keep 95% of our processes the same, change the last 5%, and it's uniquely yours.
Well, well, ask the question a little differently. Is it possible that someone would come along, let's say, not a competitor, a collaborator, or potentially someone who could help you grow your business and say, Mitch, I think I can help you achieve your dream, but on a much bigger scale. Um, can I buy you? This is a hypothetical question.
Yeah, Dan, just get your checkbook, man. Well, let's talk. No, I think, honestly, and I am a business, and while I'm passionate and personally engaged in what we do here, um, it's not based upon me. I am in business because it's a business, and if somebody came and had the right amount and it made sense, then my wife would love to travel with me and have me home a lot more. So I'm good for that. Um, so I'm open to that, but it's like I think the competitive thing is just, I think there isn't anybody really suited to do what we do. Somebody would come into the music world and see the work we're doing, and they could say, "Oh, we're gonna eat Mitch's lunch. We're gonna show 'em." I mean, I have personal relationships with all these artists and all these people. That the time we take with our clients, that there's it isn't just about a physical thing. You have to redesign the space when they realize how much money they wouldn't make, and you're going, "How did Mitch do this?" Says Mitch does it because they're passionate about the business. It wasn't about the numbers. The numbers kind of came after from the referrals. mostly to commercial work, like
So
working with, like Remo and Audient and Gretsch and Zildjian and some of these larger companies because we were working with the artists. So now this, it's bridging into these other areas. I got a call from Earthwork Microphones today. I mean, this is a really exciting thing to be on because it's related to my passion for music, but it's something that is, I just don't think it opens it up for heavy competition when it's just so well suited for what we do specifically.
mm. So I think you may have answered this question, but we'll end with, what are you most proud of?
Oh, I'm most proud of the fact that I'm not in the day-to-day operations of my company. It's
That's
very scary.
that's an
But
interesting answer.
I'm just so glad I'm just not in the day-to-day. I am
You've
free
built an
to.
organization. You built an organization.
Yeah, and not that I don't wanna be here. I contribute, I think, in really cool ways, but at least it's on my terms. I could go play golf, I could do nothing all day. But my passion is now building studios for some of the world's best musicians and my heroes, and developing products and new things that help solve sound problems and showing the industry what's possible in the way of something visually attractive yet acoustical.
So this, everybody, has been Mitch Zlotnick, founder and CEO of Audimute. That's Audimute. Um, Located in Ohio, but where in Ohio?
We're in Cleveland, but basically a suburb of Cleveland, Bedford Heights.
Bedford Heights, Ohio. Thank you very much, Mitch, and we wish you luck.
Thank you so much for having us. Wow, that was good.